Chapter 5. Saucepan makes a muddle. Joe, Silky and Moonface were very pleased that Joe was the right way up again. It feels funny, said Joe. I feel quite giddy the right way up after standing upside down for so long. Thank you, witch. How much is the spell? 1 piece of gold, said the witch. Moonface put his hand into his pocket and brought out his money bag. He brought out 1 piece of gold. The witch threw it on the fire, and at once bright golden smoke came out. She shook up her knitting needles and began to knit the yellow smoke into the socks she was making. I wanted a yellow pattern, she said, pleased. Your piece of gold came just at the right moment. Gosh, this is a very magical land, isn't it? Said Joe, as the 3 of them walked out of the extraordinary shop. Fancy knitting socks out smoke. Don't let's go home yet, Moonface. I want to see some more things. All right, said Moonface, who wanted to explore a bit too. Come on, hey, look at that gnome who is selling a spell to make cats sing. Let's go over there. Somebody's brought a cat to him. I wonder if the spell really works. A witch's assistant had brought along a big black cat. He handed the gnome 2 silver pieces of money. The gnome took the cat on his knee. He opened his mouth and looked down. Then he took out a silver whistle and blew a tune softly down the cat's pink throat. The cat swallowed once, twice, and then jumped off the gnome's knee. Will it sing now? Asked the witch's assistant. I won't go back to my witch unless it does. It will sing whenever you stroke it, said the gnome, turning to the other customer. The witch's assistant went off with the cat, following behind. Joe took hold of Moonface's arm and whispered to him, I'm going to stroke the cat. I do want to hear if it really will sing. Moonface and Silky wanted to as well. They giggled to see Joe running softly after the big black cat and caught up with it. He gently stroked it, and then, what a peculiar thing! The cat stopped, lifted its head, and sang in a very deep man's voice. Oh, once my whiskers grew so long, I had to have a shave. The barber said it's not the way for whiskers to behave. If you're not careful, my dear cat, they'll grow into a beard, and then a billy goat you'll be, or something very weird. Oh, once my tail became so short it hadn't got a wag, the baker said. But whatever the baker said about the cat's short tail, nobody ever knew. The witch's assistant turned round in surprise when he heard the cat singing, because he knew that he hadn't stroked it. He saw Joe and the others grinning away nearby, and he was very angry. How dare you use up the cat's singing, he cried. You wait till I tell my witch. She'll be after you, and you won't sing if she catches you. Quick, run, said Moonface. If he does fetch the witch, we'll be in trouble. So they ran away fast, and were soon out of sight of the cat and the assistant. They sank down under a tree, laughing. Oh dear, that cat did sing in a funny voice, said Joe, wiping his eyes. Oh, what a lovely deep voice it had. Do you think its whiskers really did grow very long? Just then, The three of them heard a loud noise coming along. Clackety-clank, rackety-rank, bang, crash, rattle. A saucepan man, they all cried. He's come up here too. And sure enough it was old Saucepan, grinning all over his face. He had so many kettles and saucepans on that day that nothing could be seen of him except his feet and his face. "Hello, hello," he said. "I guessed you were up here. Been having fun?" "Yes," said Joe. "I'm all right again, look. It's so nice to walk the proper way up again. And oh, Saucepan, we've just heard a cat sing." Saucepan actually heard what Joe said, but he couldn't believe that he heard right. So he put his hand behind his ear and said, "What did you say? I thought you said you'd heard a cat sing, but I heard wrong, I know." "No, you heard right," said Joe. "We did hear a cat sing." "Let's go and explore a bit more," said Moonface. So they got up and went off. A witch was selling a spell to make ordinary broomsticks fly through the air. The four of them watched in amazement as they saw her rubbing a pink ointment onto a broom handle belonging to an elf. "Now, get on it and say, 'Whiz away,' and you can fly home," said the witch. The elf sat astride of the broomstick with a smile on her pretty face. "Whiz away," she said, and off whizzed the broomstick into the air, with the elf clinging tightly onto it. "I'd like to buy that spell," said Joe. "I wonder how much it is." The witch heard him. "3 silver pieces," she said. Joe hadn't even got one, but Moonface had. He took them out of his money bag and gave them to the witch. "Where's your broomstick?" she snapped. "We haven't got one with us," said Joe. "But can't you give us the ointment instead, please?" "Well, I'll give you just a little," said the witch. She took a tiny pink jar and put a dab of pink ointment onto it. Joe took it and put it in his pocket. Now maybe his mother's broomstick would learn to fly. At the next stall, a goblin was selling a spell to make things big. The spell was in big cans and it looked like paint. "Just think of what a useful spell this is," yelled the goblin to the passers-by. "Have you got visitors coming to dinner and only a small cake to offer them? A dab of this spell and the cake swells to twice its size. Have you got a suit that you've grown out of? A dab of this marvellous spell and it'll grow to the right size. Marvellous, wonderful, amazing, and astonishing. Buy, buy, buy while you've got the chance." "What do you want?" asked Joe. "My money," said Saucepan Man. "I always keep it in one of my kettles or saucepans, but I never remember which one. I simply must buy that spell. Think how useful it would be to me. Sometimes when I go round selling my goods, a customer will say to me, 'Oh, but you haven't got a kettle big enough,' or 'I would like to make kettles just as big as I like, and we can dab it on the pop cakes with the spell too, and make them twice as big.'" He found his money at last and paid it to the goblin, who handed him a can of the spell. Saucepan was very pleased. He longed to try it out on something. He took the brush and dabbed a daisy nearby with the spell. The daisy at once grew to twice its size. Then Saucepan dabbed a bumblebee, and that grew enormous, and it buzzed round Moonface's face, and he had to wave it away. Saucepan, "Don't do any more bees," he begged. "I expect their sting is quite as big too. Look, let's go to that store over there and buy some treats. It'll be fun to make them twice as big." They hurried to the shop, but on the way a dreadful thing happened. Saucepan fell over one of his kettles and upset the can, which had the spell on it, and it splashed up, and drops of it fell onto Moonface, Silky and Joe, and on Saucepan Man too, and in a moment they all shut up twice their size. Silky grew to 3 times her size because more drops fell on her. They stared at one another. How small the land of spells suddenly seemed. How little the witches and goblins looked. How tiny the shops were. Saucepan, you really are careless, said Moonface angrily. Look at what you've done to us. Now what are we going to do? Silky clutched hold of Moonface's arm. Moonface, she said. Oh, Moonface, do you think we are too big to go down the hole through the cloud? Moonface turned pale. We'd better go and see, he said. Come on, everyone. Frightened and silent, all 4 of them hurried to where the hole led down to the Faraway Tree. How little it seemed to the 4 big people now. Moonface tried to get down. He stuck. He couldn't slip down. It's no use, he said. We're too big even to go down. Whatever shall we do? Well, you will find out tomorrow when we read chapter 6. What can they do now? Bye.